You're now listening to the Diversity Roundtable. I'm Pamela Xaba, entrepreneur, inclusion enthusiast, and the founder of Nonkosi Creatives with over 2 decades as a corporate HR professional. My goal is to give you insights into conversations with entrepreneurs and corporate professionals who have insightful stories of triumph and leadership. I uncover my personal journey from cultivating diversity and promoting inclusive communities. We'll also find out why building a prosperous society is vital for leadership roles. Subscribe and get ready to rise, lead, and help define the spirit of South African excellence. Welcome. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for tuning in. It is really exciting. The year is moving on. We are in March already. It's the 1st of March. We are recording this podcast today. I'm so excited. I can't believe that we are on episode 11. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. Today we are joined by a lovely lady, a friend of mine, a gracious Nomthandazo Mavuso. Welcome, Nomthandazo.
Thank you so much, Pam.
Yes, thank you so much for coming through. So please stay tuned, hold on to your seats. This is going to be such really an interesting conversation that I'm going to have with the beautiful Nomthandazo today when she's unpacking the topic on navigating the power, rank, and privilege landscape. It's quite a loaded topic, Nomthandazo, and this topic, I was just saying earlier that this topic can be misleading because there's a lot going on in our country. There's a lot going on globally. Yeah. So I'm very much interested, how you will break this down. Why does it resonate with you in your context, in your background, in your upbringing, your experiences? Yeah. So really welcome. Nomthandazo is the Senior Manager for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Yeah. You're also responsible for the culture aspect in your environment. Yes. So you're also the chairperson of the DEIB Track at the IPM Convention in 2023. That's correct, right? Correct. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for actually allowing us to talk to you today. So over to you. Just tell us more about who is Nomthandazo. Let's get our listeners, our viewers to actually experience the brains and the beauty behind this title or this topic that we have chosen on navigating power, rank, and privilege. I'm assuming that you didn't grow up with a lot of privilege, but let me hand over to you before I trip over myself and actually then start stealing your thunder, So this is your story. Let me hear from you. Who are you? Please engage us. Welcome.
Thank you, Pam. I feel privileged to be here. There are a lot of South Africans, females, black people that have never been interviewed in a podcast. So I do recognize that I've got quite a privilege for me to be here. So Nomthandazo is a girl born in Soweto, bred there, at Dobsenville.
Yes.
Born from an informal settlement, but luckily having both parents with me. I come from a family of 5 kids, so I'm the 4th one. I've got 3 brothers, and I'm the first girl, and I've got my sister after me. So it was very much of a loving kind of background. Yes. But the environment was not what you would think is decent, as everyone knows the history of SA, in terms of accessibility, privilege, and power. Yes. It was a seriously poor background. Yes. But I realize now that there was a lot of privilege that I have within my capacity to be able to be where I am today that I would have leveraged. So this topic resonates with me because firstly, I am a DEIB professional, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Yeah. So privilege, rank, power influences how people feel included, how people, grow and they are recognized. But in this particular case, I wanted to talk about me and my journey in relation to the topic. Yes. Because recently I've been reading, content. I mean, this morning I released a book review from a book called Allies and Advocacies. And just going through that book made me realize about the spectrum of power, rank, and privilege that I've been from how I grew up with little. And how today I am a professional in a corporate world. I get to speak in a podcast. I've got a team. I've got a job. There are so many things I don't need to think about every morning when I wake up, like water, security, and all of that, which was never my life before. So I realized that I've experienced this spectrum of rank, power, and privilege, and now I'm in this spectrum, and there are differences, and they make the job that I do to be quite interesting because I am, engaging with people that are from different backgrounds, and I can relate with both, sides of the story, and it's quite critical for me. So it gave me a very good experience in terms of being able to engage on the topic, although everyone has got a different, quite a different experience with what they've had to endure.
Sure. Nomthandazo, thank you for that lovely introduction. It's quite interesting, how you actually view this topic. As I was saying earlier, most often given the history of our country and where we come from as a people, when we talk about privilege, we really never think about ourselves, right?
No.
Because we always think about, what is it that I don't have, and we always get stuck in terms of this is the background that I grew up with without actually realizing that where you are now, you are actually, privileged, and there's a lot. It probably took you a lot to get to this point. Can you just paint a picture for us? Because I'm just so interested in your story, Nomthandazo. Can you paint a picture for us and our viewers and our listeners, what it took for you, right, to be where you are? What are some of the challenges that you experienced along your journey? Did you ever, obviously, as you're growing up in your environment, now a person, when they look at you today, they wouldn't even say that you came from an informal settlement. So just paint a picture for us so that we build this thing up and get our listeners and our viewers to really understand why you picked this topic specifically,
So there are many examples, and I know there are so many of us that have experienced this. It ranges from waking up wanting to use water and realizing that you have to go and fetch water somewhere because there's no water installed that comes into your house. It includes not having any toilet inside your house, and here you are at night, you want to go to the toilet, you are female, it's dark, there's no electricity, and you have to think about waking somebody up or thinking about your safety, something I don't have to think about now. It involves me having to pay a school fees of 50 rand that I did not have. 50 rands.
Sure.
That's what the public school, costed that I don't have, not having uniform, all of those things that we take for granted, or lunch and all of that. But I was quite, I don't know if I must say lucky or privileged with the fact that I really, from a young age, I was so positive about the kind of life that I want to live. I was so focused in terms of, schoolwork and also intellect, which is a privilege. I mean, I didn't do anything to be intellectual, at school. So it's something that I've been given, just like that, how I was born. And I used that. I was so curious. I used to read books. I used to read magazines. I used to take quotes from a Bona magazine. And all these things that were inspirational to me, and I knew that education is the only thing that could get me out of the situation I was, and I was very intentional about the people that are my friends. So the key moments are that I was selected for a scholarship by a teacher, so I was also privileged to have good teachers that saw what was happening and they wanted the best of me. So I got a scholarship to study a tertiary because of the hard work academically, obviously. And I grabbed that opportunity like there's nobody's business. I was never going to repeat a year.
Yes.
I was never going to take it for granted.
Yes.
And I completed my business of a bachelor degree in terms of business admin. And I think that gave me another set of privilege. I mean, to be literate and to have education in South Africa with our situation, at least gives you a little bit of a step forward. So that was a key moment where a teacher of mine used their power, their rank and privilege to say, how can I give access to Nomthandazo for education, and a school that provided scholarships. They provided us with mentors, coaches, and they were quite invested in me and many of us in that school to be the kind of business professionals that we are. So you can see where I have been the recipient of privilege and the kind of privilege that I've heard at school. I also got involved in student leadership. As young as I was, and it was all about again being a mouthpiece for especially women. So we called it minister. I was a minister of gender from day one.
You still are. So that can never. It's stuck on you.
Because I think fairness has always been a topic. Fairness, freedom, something about those things just resonates with me even today. Equality. So I thought, let me be that advocate person, put myself out there and really question things that relate to gender and just generally fairness for students. So here's another moment where I've used my privilege again, for others, and I also received that kind of privilege from other people saying you can represent us. So I see that I really started this work purpose very early. All the way to me starting as a new professional like everyone. There you've got zero privilege. You know nothing. You've never worked. You can't negotiate your pay.
That's
you don't know what you are doing.
You don't know anything about this world, right?
I remember signing first day my contract. So my first job, I earned 5,000 rand for me. Pam, that was a lot of money. I was rich. But on that day when I came to sign, I remember hearing in an HR office somebody saying, check page, let's say 5. And page 5 is where money is. And I didn't know what page 5 is. I mean, now you know your templates and all of that. And I didn't understand well, but I went, they were not talking to me. They were talking about me. And I saw, it's money. But still, 5,000 is a lot of money. So I didn't know what it means until I was involved in distributing pay slips and all of that. And I saw that the tea lady that served us tea, that I was teaching in ABET, because I also became an ABET teacher, which was quite fulfilling.
Because that's another way of giving back, right?
Exactly. Teaching employees that are on the shop floor, tea ladies, how to count, how, basic maths and English. And I saw these people were earning more than me. So I started, I know they've been there for some time, which is quite good. But now I realized, what was that page? What's all about? And they were seeing me, teacher this. So I had rank, with my students. I loved them so much. But at the same time, I was with them to a taxi, and I realized I'm not like any other HR person at this moment. I'm still junior, and so that's another key moment. And then as time went, I also became a mentor for graduates, which I really loved and still love mentoring and all of that, to the extent that I became a mentor of the year at some point. That's how much I really like the work. So here again, trying to make them fast track the kind of experience, because I knew how it is to be a new graduate without experience, and how could I transfer some of the knowledge and experience that I had acquired. So to me, choosing this particular profession, I just want to say I think somehow this theme has been following, and I fully understand how you can use that and how you can receive it from other people to create inclusion and make other people feel belonging.
Sure, wonderful. You make it sound so easy, though. You make it sound so easy. I know that there were challenges along the way, right?
Yeah.
But I think what I'm taking from you, based on the picture that you've just painted for us, is that with determination, you have to have the drive, you have to have the hunger to succeed, and also, most importantly, given the background, you also then look at other people and say, one day I want to be like this, or I want to have 1, 2, 3. There are certain things that you would like to have, So, but then in the work context, because now you're a professional, I'm sure you've worked for different organizations and things like that, and I'm sure you have observed certain situations. So, what would you say? How can then maybe leaders or people that have or leadership positions actually then use their positions effectively then to uplift other people, especially maybe people from disadvantaged communities or marginalized communities, not as a handout, but then to say, I'm in this space, how do I reach out? What would be your view? Yes.
It starts with educating yourself about this. A lot of us do not know that we have some privilege. Everyone is privileged somewhere and is not privileged somewhere. So if you right now go to KZN, for instance, I mean, that being a villageous woman, you look like a potential wife, and at the same time, I can take you to another area where you will just look obese and all of that. So you can see that, there's places where your experiences and who you are and your identity gives you privilege, and there are instances where it does the opposite. So I just want to say everyone has privilege of some point. So I think leaders can really understand that, you know, and I know it makes people feel guilty sometimes when you say they have privilege. It's almost like now, if I had to feel like, oh, I've got a better privilege than people that I grew up with. It just you just want to hide it somewhere because it's they're still in that situation, and it's not a nice kind of a thing to say. However, once you understand the power of it, you understand how you can use it, that at least you've identified it, you acknowledge it, and now you want to take action for others. So it starts with education and understanding it. Secondly, it starts with being curious with the people that you are leading. Know who Pam is. What is the story of Pam? There are so many things that you can see visibly, which are your diverse aspects. But there are non-visible aspects, like you said to me now. You don't know how I grew up. You don't know what I've been through. What are my values? You can only figure out those things if you are curious and you are my leader. So curiosity is very important. Number 2, sharing of your own mistakes and where you come from. Tells other people it's okay to share mistakes. It's okay to share where you come from. You create that psychological safety, and then your employees are able to speak to you about things that bothers them, that is different than what you would have had. So be curious. Empower yourself with the knowledge to know it. Acknowledge it. And be vulnerable, share yourself, and just find different ways in which you can empower people, you can coach people, you can mentor people, you can contribute to policies that are breaking barriers for transformation. You can be somebody's sponsor in a meeting for talent succession or performance when they are not there, and that's all called being an ally and being an advocate for somebody or for some people, and that plays a big role because it gets to people to another level of their profession with you just giving them that. It doesn't need money. They don't need to know about it. You don't need to expose it because you're doing it for the goodness. So those are some of the things. I mean, there are more.
No, I like the point that you touched on, Nomthandazo, on being vulnerable as a leader, because I think most often than not, when people look at you or they even look at us sitting here having this discussion, and They think, it almost looks perfect that, they wake up and they're in studio and whatnot and whatnot. And you just remind me of, when also I tell my story, and I tell people that, I had a serious mental issue last year, and that I did not even know how to get out of. And when we start telling those stories, people actually get surprised because then, we always want to come across as we have it all together. We are strong, we have achieved these things, we do these things. But I think if then you open yourself up as a person, rather than your position that you hold, to say, here I am. I am Nomthandazo. I have made these mistakes. This is my background. This is what it took for me to get to this point. And then people in your environment, it could be your colleagues, it could be your community, they start looking at you in a different light, because most often, sometimes, the mistake that other people tend to make is then use their position to look down on other people, or maybe use, whatever that they've accumulated, and you'll hear people saying, no, but I worked hard for this. And no one is saying that you didn't work hard for it, but then how do you empower others? Like in your case, you mentor people, you coach people, you coach graduates to say, this is how you then walk the journey, right? So in the context of then where we are as a society, there's a lot that's going on, especially now in 2024, right? There's a lot, people are struggling, people are really suffering, then what are some of the strategies that either our leaders or community leaders or people in corporate environments can then employ to actually then reach out to those that have less power or less privilege? What would you say? I know that we won't wake up and change the world. There's a lot going on. But what are the small steps, let me put it that way, that can be done? One of the steps is like this. This is another platform, of really, giving people access to information, to people like you that they wouldn't ordinarily have an opportunity to talk to. But then what are some of the ways that you think, given the context of the communities that you grew up in?
So I just want to say to your earlier statement about vulnerability, a leadership job, a parenting job, a job of a diversity aspect is not the kind of a job that requires perfect people. So there's no pressure for us to be perfect, because we're doing the job for people that are imperfect anyway. And we're going a step further, showing them that it's okay to come and follow me. So I think we need to stop thinking that we need to be perfect. Number two, creating trust requires you to be, I need to feel like I can trust you. I feel like you won't judge me on things. So if I'm perfect, I will not answer certain questions. I will not engage more. I will not be vulnerable to you. So that's critical. But back to the question, I think everyone has got something to give. I spoke about a teacher when I grew up who decided, I'm going to close the gap for what was happening. The teacher did not have money. She works in a public school. But here she is. She used what was within her control. So I think policemen can do that. I think pastors are doing that. So I think everyone literally in the community has got something that they can look at. I think we just need to understand what is it that we're passionate about. I mean, I'm passionate about girls, women, in general. So people will have to choose the cause that they're really passionate about. And they'll have to say, what is it that I can do within my control to be able to contribute? And so I think it doesn't matter who you are. A guy who is sitting in a corner of the street can decide, what, women are not feeling safe, with all the stats that are coming up. So I'm literally going to be the guy that stands on the stop where the taxis are. I'm going to find other men who feel like that, and we're going to protect ladies in our community
Yeah.
This is never going to happen. When
Yeah.
you see, I mean, people can be tutors for kids at school
Yes.
and give them more skills. So there's literally a lot that can be done by everyone if
Yes.
they are intentional, and it would be things that are within their access,
Yes.
control, and
Yes.
with the resources that they have.
Yes, yes. You know, just listening to you, I mean, there's this quote. I don't know this quote is from who, but the quote is that the quickest way or the easiest way that people give up their power is to think that they do not have any.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
So where I'm going with this, just based on what you just said, is that, you know, you don't have to be sometimes in a position of power or have rank or have a certain title for you to. So I think it's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
So my follow-up question is that how do people shift their mindset from the position of or lack wherever they are, and actually for them to realize that they have the power to achieve anything that they put their minds into? Because then it's also then maybe also about, I wouldn't say priorities, but maybe about choices. I don't know, am I right? What's your view on that statement?
I think, of course, you have to make a choice. You know, you have to be curious about something. You have to make a choice. You have to think whether it makes you feel warm and you are ready for change. But I think platforms like yours, listening to podcasts, there are so many podcasts on YouTube or whatever, just being curious about information, going to sermons, reading books. Those are the things that gives you some kind of information that just at least opens up your mind. And I think if people can be curious, if people can do self-development, seek role models that are good, those are the things that will challenge them. But the next step is that it must be something that somebody really wants to do, because we all know change is not easy.
Tell me about it.
And it's not for, I mean, you don't have to wait until you're perfect, but at the same time, when you embark on change, it's not easy. So you have to be, you know, be ready to try something, fail, ask others, read more, practice it until you become perfect in it. And then you start gaining that confidence about what you are able to do with your skills and with your privileges that you are born with, and what you are not able to. I mean, if you think about it, if people think they don't have privilege or power, one day I was speaking to a colleague of mine at IPM who was going to be a speaker, and they're like, you know what? I hear people are talking about this thing during COVID where you had to stay at home. What is it called again? Lockdown. You know, lockdown. And people with disabilities physically have always been on lockdown. So, guys, welcome to it. Can you imagine somebody who cannot see? It's load shedding every day for them. Somebody who does not have, you know, functionality on their legs.
They've just taken this thing to another level.
So we got to experience how to be on lockdown on daily basis, and that speaks to access and privilege. But because we're able-bodied, some of us, we've got legs and we can see, we forgot totally that there are people who doesn't even have a privilege to walk in here and have this conversation or even speak. So I found that quite profound. And those are the things that wake up your mind and make you think about yourself. And after that, you cannot go back and be normal and think there's no privilege that you have or you're not capable of anything.
Sure. Nomthandazo, you know what? You're such an amazing. You know, I've never really had such a detailed discussion with you. I think I met you last year or the year before, but we're never close or anything like that. But I've always just seen in terms of, you know, how you position yourself in your drive. One thing that I like about you is that you are not, I don't know what's the word, you are not you are not an in-your-face type of person. But the minute a person talks to you, you can feel the richness. And all of this is really based on the journey, the experiences, the challenges, everything that you have just spoken to us about now.
Thank you so much.
Now, let me paint a picture, right? Here is, let's say, a 15-year-old or a 15-year-old Pamela in rural KZN right now in 2024. Trying to, maybe 15 is too young, let's say they just finished high school, trying to find what is the next thing. They don't have access to information. They just really don't know what they don't know, right? And what would you say to them, right? Because I think not so long ago, that was you, right?
That was me. And I'm having goosebumps. I'm having goosebumps because I was that lady.
Yeah.
And God,
it's okay. I love this. I love the authenticity, Nomthandazo, because we don't get platforms like this to actually share our authentic stories. We bottle up a lot of pain, and I understand why you are tearing up, because now you're making me tear up. I was like, stop it. I think we should have had a box of tissues here. I didn't know that it was gonna get like this. But the journey has been hard, right? I think it's been hard. I mean, I'm in my mid-40s. I don't know how old you are, but it's been a long, hard journey, sometimes of silencing your voice so that you can fit into certain spaces.
Anyway, I did want to go there in terms of, expressing or explaining how I got to where I got. So what my life looked like, I spoke about magazines and always being curious. I think I must have, every time in a magazine where I saw the name of a company with details. During that time, we're still writing letters, not emails, right? I knew that my parents could not afford to take me to tertiary, and I wanted to do that. I might have written 200 letters every time. If I see a product like this and there's details, I would write and ask for a scholarship. And none of those responded or came through. But I'm saying the hunger that I had gave me all these ideas. It was very clear for me. There was no other way. And for me, I didn't give myself the option to continue like this. So even magazines, even newspapers that I find, speaking to people, like I said, the teachers that were there, I always made it known, and I was quite curious. I mean, my relatives that were living better than me, I visited them. I was quite curious to see how other people are living and whether this is normal, what we're living. Of course, it feels normal because this is how you grew up. But as soon as you open up your mind, you can see, there's more to life. So I think just being curious, being hungry, taking actions, being crazy. I mean, it's crazy to just be writing to people that you don't know, just like that from a product. But those are the kind of things within my experience that I can really share, and there's nothing more than that.
So the young Nomthandazo of 2024, right? Because in this day and age, we don't write letters anymore. And these guys, they've got cell phones, they've got data. And some of them, they don't have access to data because of the background. So how would they now navigate this space? So if you look at the Nomthandazo, then now Nomthandazo at that age who's living in 2024, how would she then navigate this space today?
I mean, I don't want to undermine the experiences young people are having now, but I'd like to believe that the world is more open. There's more accessibility right now. I mean, you hardly find somebody who doesn't have a cell phone. So the question is, if you've gotten access to a cell phone, internet, or bit of data, who are you following on Facebook? Who are you following on Instagram? What are you reading Are you
Yes.
on TikTok? I am on TikTok.
Yes.
Guess what? I am learning a lot about the very same topics that we're talking about and
Yes.
other things that interest me. So I'm intentionally there,
Yes.
following motivation,
Yes.
following property investment,
Yes.
following books.
Yes.
Of course, there are moments of laughter and stuff like that,
Yes.
but I'm making sure that me having access to social media
Yeah.
is firstly helping me to learn and get the experience that I might not get around me, and and to also build my brand. So I'm following people that are like what I want to be, and maybe they might see me one day and I might be able to be mentored, and stuff like that. So I think let's be intentional about the access that we have to internet, to social media, the little time that you get. Be intentional about it. You will never ever know how much you got out of your situation.
So it goes back to the point that sometimes people, they don't know that they have privilege, right? Because the privilege of having access to a phone and internet and but then not using it to your benefit, So that's really what I really wanted to hear, you know. And for our young people that will be listening to this, is that, who are you following? You just maybe following. There's nothing wrong with Amapiano and all those things. No, don't get me wrong. But, what are the hours of self-development that you spend on your phone to look for information on how to improve your life? Because that's another example of privilege. Why is it a privilege? Because someone else doesn't have access to
and
that.
you didn't do anything to obtain the access. I mean, you did nothing to make the internet happen or social media, but it's benefiting you. That's what privilege is about, having an unending benefit, by the way, because I think we do need to define it.
Yes, right. No, thank you so much. Because then I think it leads me to the next point, is that, what is the role then of society and communities, in this space for them to actually then just collectively address the issue of power, rank, and privilege, So, I mean, the different communities, what do you think? We've got community leaders, we've got different people in our communities, So what would be your take on this?
Yeah, I think people need to extend themselves. Me and you are professionals. We've got some experience that we can share.
Yes.
We also need to reach out to people that we could be able to, either mentor or hire or take them to work, just to experience. And within our own homes as well. I mean, we've got influence on daily basis. And that's where education starts. So we can talk about issues like this so that our kids understand what it is. You can speak to kids that are your, friends to your kids. I think, in Zulu they say a child is raised by a village.
Yes.
And we can also create groups for those that are marginalized. I mean, you can have a women's network or forum in that particular community and talk about issues that are affecting women and how we ourselves can empower ourselves to use what we have to move forward. You can have a group for different kind of people. I mean, when I grew up, there was a woman who liked arts, drama, and would see that youth is just sitting there and they don't have anything to do, and she used to be that that woman who is saying, come, let's dance. And we used to do Zulu dance choreography. We used to do Sarafina, Sarafina and all of that, keeping youth very much busy. But some of them ended up becoming the stars that you see on TV in arts. So, and this woman was doing it from her own yard. You see? So I think those are the things that people can do in the community to just provide access without even having any vested interest of what becomes of whatever it is that they are adding. It all contributes to making us a better nation, while of course the bigger issues needs to be sorted out.
Yes.
All the, issues that we know of the past, the policies and all of that. But it's about that influence and access where you are.
Yes. There's so much more that we can do as a collective, right? So every time I say these things to people in my circles, they say, when I pay me, there you go again. You are just too ambitious and you think you can solve the world's problems and whatnot. I said, no, it's not about that. It's just that sometimes when you know yourself some of the missed opportunities that maybe you could have done things differently, and then now you want to show up better, and then you create certain platforms and whatnot. But then also you mentioned something now about a women's network. Right.
Yeah.
So here we are. I mean, we belong to HR communities and whatnot, and we say these things, but where are they? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but I'm giving you a challenge if you don't realize that. So when are you starting the women's network? But then in starting a women's network, Nomthandazo, is that sometimes we leave out the man, the male child. So can you talk about that dynamic, because it's also a power play, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that dynamic in the communities that maybe even the community that you grew up in some of the communities that you see, that we tend to focus so much in actually giving access and power and privilege to women and girls, and then we then leave the young boys and the men, and then it comes with unintended consequences. What's your take on that? I know I'm digressing, but it's still within the topic that we're talking about.
It's true. Firstly, I want to acknowledge that you're not crazy if you want to solve the world, and if you feel it inside you. It reminds me of a quote that says, the job of us is to find the talent, the gifts that we have.
Yes.
And the other job is to give it away as a gift back to your creator. So if you feel it and you feel like you can change the world and you're not giving it back, I think you would have missed a big opportunity. Number 2, I am involved in some of the women's network.
Wonderful.
In my workplace.
Tell us
and
more.
Among my friends. So obviously having this kind of responsibility at work, one of the marginalized group is without a doubt women in terms of representation, inclusion in corporate.
Yes.
So we've got a women's network.
Wonderful.
And this is where we are addressing issues that are pertaining to us, where we grow and empower each other and make sure that we are doing our best to close the inclusion gap and for representation. And amongst our friends, we have a network of women that we meet once in a while with, where we share experiences like what I'm doing with you that are coming in from different places, and we can say, you know what, I'm experiencing this either as a parent or as a wife, or but I'm sure we can take that a bar higher.
Of course we can.
So to come back to your question, it is quite critical for the entire community to solve issues that are affecting community. If I am a female girl or I'm a male that doesn't have opportunities, we can either say, oh, it's a male thing, or we can say, you know what, it's our thing, because one day this is the boy that's going to rob me when I come from work because he's looking for something. If I'm a mother, I've got so much impact in the community that if I'm not well, my family is not well, and who knows what my kids will do and how it will impact you. I think COVID showed us that you can no longer say, oh, it's my issue. On the side, COVID, it didn't care whether you've got rank power, you are this race or whatever. It impacted all of us, and we felt all a need to be able to step up. So I think the topic you're talking about is that one of advocacy. And being an advocate for something does not mean that you fall within that particular group. You are experiencing the same problems. It just means that you care enough about that particular topic. And remember, if you are in a particular situation, let's say abuse or whatever it is that you're experiencing as a woman, sometimes you can't even think straight, because all of us, it's that diversity thing that we're talking about. We have same experiences, we've got same perspectives. You are talking to women who are experiencing the same thing. That's not diversity. That's not what we preach in the workplace. We're saying get different perspectives to get innovation.
Yes.
So it's the same thing here, where if you are talking about gender issues and you're not including men, then you're not going to have anything better or innovation. And also for men, you do not have to be a female to be an advocate for gender. You do not have to be black to be an advocate for black people. You do not have to be young to be able to talk about generational issues that are around you. So I think there is a room for everyone to contribute in whatever way, topic or groupings. And it's important because then it brings innovation and better solutions.
Wonderful. Wow, Nomthandazo. So let me then now pick your brain on DEI, because this is your specialty, right? On DEI and also and belonging. So for how did you get into this field? So now I'm really trying to get you to inspire our young people to say, because maybe some of them, they've never even heard of the term DEIB, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they don't even know that it's a thing for you to have to do as a career, right? So what does this entail? So if you just break it down, because most often when we talk about diversity, people's minds, they first go to race and gender, right? So just break it down for us, then what does this really entail? For someone out there who's hearing for the first time, or they don't have an idea that you can actually do this as a job. So I also, that Nomthandazo of 14, 15-year-old didn't know about a lot of careers that we have. So I did not intend to be in a career. I got into HR, then specialized in change management, which works with people. And at some point, somebody picked something from me to say, they see the way I engage with, from engaging with a security guy to engaging with the CEO. I remember my leader then said, you just treat people the same, and it's you don't have that thing of, I'm speaking to Pam, then I must be like this. So I guess those kind of qualities and everything that I've done from school added up. And when the opportunity was there, I think there were people who were saying, actually, we think you can do this. And I also have seen some professionals. I want to shout out to Mamnene Mulife. Wow, yes.
Who it was my first experience to, really understand what diversity is. And we were working with her as a consultant. And first time just breaking down, what is diversity? What is this? What is that? And she had a book. And I was showing her the other day. I mean, she wrote down, what, you seem to have passion on this topic. All the best to your journey. And it was nice, but I didn't know what it means. A few years later, I opened the book and I was like, my God, here I am. So thank you so much for that inspiration. I'm really, I think she's my role model in the field. We all know that if you go and Google diversity, equity, and inclusion globally, and then you'll find Mamnene. So what does the job entail? So the job, it could be different things, but it's all about making sure that we do our policies are in such a way that there's access to people of color, people that were marginalized before, and just being able to look at that, making policies that fair, putting together those groupings like the Women's Network and an Employment Equity Forum and a network for people with disabilities or for young talent to be able to talk about issues, network and be known, making them visible in the organization. It also includes looking at our stats and seeing how much diversity do we have? Obviously, we are in SA, race, gender, young people is quite critical for us to see how many people with disabilities you have. Being involved in facilitating a process to put targets together to improve the profile of diversity. But not only that, obviously there's an equity element, which I spoke about. It's systems, processes, how easy it is. Can people see themselves through your policies, through how your company is laid out, that you know what, this is the company that I want to work for. And once you've got your diverse people, are they included? Are they heard? I mean, in town halls, in leadership, in engagements, do you consider them when you make decisions where they feel like, of course, you've invited me as a diverse person to come and have this party with you. You've looked at equity processes and systems, but you're also listening to me, which means you are getting back the benefits, the return on investment. Because if we do not use our diverse people's perspectives, we've lost money because we paid a lot to recruit them. Now they are here, you're not leveraging their diverse perspectives for innovation. So I think if you're not doing that as a company, you are really missing out, I want to say. And then belonging is obviously about creating that sense of connectedness where I feel like I can rock up with my hair like this. I can be me. I can tell this story and no one can say, oh, Nomthi who grew up like this cannot be an executive in this organization. I feel like I can express myself. So those are the things that a diversity specialist help to clarify, facilitate, infuse in our programs and policies, and be that advocate, that speaker, and making sure that those voices are heard, coaching leaders who are interested in being inclusive leaders, how to do it, and coaching all other people that are interested to empower themselves. So it's a lot. It's writing, communications, and making sure that the language is inclusive and different stuff.
Sure, it's a lot of work. So, and I think it's work that also needs a lot of, EQ, right? As well as resilience, So, if you look at some of the initiatives, I think we've been speaking for over like 40 minutes now, but I think you are so engaging, my gosh. I'm like trying to now dig deeper and deeper to, so I think with the work, so what fulfillment, do you get from your job, so just paint a picture for us, so what sort of feedback do you get, because we implement all of these initiatives that you have just spoken about, so what is the fulfillment that you personally get, and then second part of this is that what change have you seen in the environments where you have done this work
Thanks. Critical question. This is a question of purpose. So my purpose is to make impact and to help people to self-develop and empower themselves. So if I see you as a graduate coming in, not knowing what you are doing, not understanding anything, to you becoming a professional in your job and sitting there and do what God has created you to do. There is no fulfillment that's more than that. I get fulfillment from teaching, sharing, motivating, but most importantly on the results. Sometimes the results are about that profile that you see now starting to shape up. But that's one thing. The rest, it will be about you seeing that our talent processes now, we've got, more successors that are diverse, that are female, that have disability, that have different perspectives. And because I get to write transformation reports, I can track that and see, and I'm like, oh, okay, we've moved from just having a set of a particular color, successors or gender. Now you can see that there are many people that are ready to do this, and you see increase in participation in terms of leadership programs, mentorships, and you see a lot of women and black people and other leaders who are other colors who are saying, I want to be that advocate. Start speaking without feeling guilty, with conviction, and living that particular people. So that is the kind of impact that you see. Of course, it's very difficult to measure business performance because there's so many other things that makes a business to perform. But I think if you just track small things, if you have then you start seeing that actually there's a huge difference, and change is slow, and sometimes people don't see it until it just bursts.
Yes.
For instance, last year I was involved in Gender Mainstreaming Awards.
Yes.
Trying for us to just enter there. And sometimes when you talk about awards, almost like, those things, there are so many of them, it's exhausting and all of that.
Yeah.
And I intentionally started maybe 2 or 3 years after having the current job. Why? Because we needed to build and see the difference. And now, when we started, obviously people don't see the vision, they don't know what it is and all of that. But as soon as you've got some initiatives or leaders that are recognized in awards, I think an aha moment gets into it, like, okay, so that's what we've been doing all along. Number one. Number two, I thought my environment was not that great in terms of the stuff that we do. Culture work where because you know what it's supposed to be, you feel like, but actually sometimes even the smallest things that you do as an organization, they are bigger compared to others. That's why you would receive an award for something that you would think, we're not that perfect. And it's good to do things like that so that people can see that they're doing well, the organization can see that they're doing well, and then they're willing to be involved in such work and to speak and to put themselves out there. So those are the things that show you moments of impact and benefits.
I think, listening to you, Nomthandazo, it's more, taking an intentional step in terms of guiding towards building a better world, right? So obviously maybe the change might not happen in our generation. I doubt it very much, but we need to start somewhere, so that I think it was Malisha that I was talking to in the previous episode, that we do this type of work so that the next generation does not have to go through some of the challenges that we experience, right? Because I think it's all good and well to have a thriving organization, to focus on profits as leaders, right? But then if you just focus on profits alone and you leave a lot of dead bodies behind, I'm just being graphic now, a lot of dead bodies behind to make that million, then what is the point? How do you recover from that in the long run? So it's really, I think, having spoken to you now for the past 40 minutes, it's just really my key takeaway from the work that you do and your personality and how you show up and how authentic you are and how vulnerable you are, is that I think you do things with intention and wanting to leave a legacy, isn't it?
True. True.
But correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth.
Yeah, definitely. I might not be able to. First of all, there are benefits that happens while we're doing the work. It's like that topic of privilege we spoke about. It depends where you're looking. So if you don't see the privilege, you're looking at where you don't have. So it's the same. If we don't become intentional about the small shifts that are happening and making others to see it, to make it visible. That's my intention this year, to make sure that the work that is happening in different spaces is visible to people. Then you would think, there's no change that is going on. But of course, we will see the legacy when we're no longer here and somebody else gets it. And that's the best thing that you could have. The world must be a better place because Nomthi lived in this particular. Otherwise, why are we here? We're here to give out our gifts. We're here to leave a legacy. We're here to build the society of tomorrow. And we need to be patient, and we need to understand the change could be frustrating. Not everyone can see the vision until the vision comes out, and all of that. But it comes with the game, right?
Yes,
of course.
It comes with the game. It does, with the game. Right? No, thank you so much, Nomthandazo. Thank you for your rich words. Thank you for your context. I think it's really been a pleasure, engaging with you today. And I know for sure that our viewers and our listeners will find, your story very, very inspiring. You know, there are a lot of Nomthandazos, young Nomthandazos out there, you know, so I think for you to get to this point where you are, of being really such an influential person and an influential woman and an influential professional, I'm really glad and I'm really happy that our paths crossed, you know, at some point, you know. So I think as we close then, what are the words of encouragement for DEI professionals out there? And I think there's this unspoken war on DEI globally, you know, so what are your words of encouragement for them to stick to the course?
I think if you are in this field, you are in the right place at the right time. Career-wise, I've seen a lot of opportunities happening. This has become a topic. Organizations want, you know, professionals like us to help them. Of course, they sometimes don't know what it means and what they need to commit to and all of that, which presents opportunities. But I think it's the best kind of way for you to contribute to equity and closing the gap. So it's even, you know, it's a higher purpose kind of work. You have to like it. You have to want to make a difference. And you get to contribute to, you know, towards that. So I'm saying if the going is hard and the change is difficult, or you're feeling like even the topics itself is changing over time. It used to be DNI, DEI, DEIB, and then we've got a lot of terms coming up, which means you must, you forever have to learn. It's part of it, and no one is asking us to be perfect. We're learning with our stakeholders as we do this. But I think it's the most fulfilling, is the most that leaves legacy. And I think it needs to grow, and we need more of diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging specialists out there. So stay the course.
Thank you, Nomthandazo. Thank you. It has really been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. So to our viewers and our listeners, we have been talking to the gracious Nomthandazo Mavuso, who's the Senior Manager for Diversity, Equity and Inclusion and Culture at SASO. Thank you so much for your brilliant mind. Thank you so much for your authenticity and being vulnerable as well. We appreciate you. We love you. You have been watching or listening episode 11 of the Diversity Roundtable with the topic Navigating Power, Rank and Privilege, with a very interesting spin to it. Thank you so much, Nomthandazo. We will engage and talk again soon.
Thank you, Pam. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks to everyone who's listening. I think it's a privilege to be here, and I really enjoyed myself.
Thank you.